Ain't nobody messing with my queens, listen up. You ain't gotta love me, cause I love me. Put a hand up if you in the trenches building confidence, and put a hand up if you need some mending for your heart that's healing. Salute, say you in attendance, this army's relentless. A weekly dose of motivation, give me your attention. This is for all the queens going heal by any means. They chasing our self-esteem, it's not as hard as it seems. Go, go, go queen, go. Ain't nobody messing with my queens, listen up.
Welcome to the All Queens Army podcast. It's your girl, your host, Coach Breezy. I am here today with season 4's premiere, baby. Yes, ma'am. I am so freaking excited for season 4. Oh my gosh. I wish I had like some sound effects. Like, I don't even know how to do that. Like, make the hand clap, like, yeah, like that little thing or whatever. Because let me tell y'all something. I am super duper proud of myself. Let me tell you why. Because I literally have recorded 4 seasons. Like 4 seasons. Like, who knew, y'all? Y'all little old inconsistent girl who always jumping in and out of all the things I got my hands in. Your girl is on season 4. Y'all know we started this journey back in September of 2018, baby. So you know I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one, okay? And I hope that all of you queens pat yourselves on the back when you do some dope ass shit, all right? So with that being said, welcome to season 4. I am literally so pumped. I mean, like, if y'all couldn't tell, because I'm probably blowing y'all eardrums out right now or whatever. But anyway, we're going to get into today's topic because it is one for the books, baby. You know I have to come into season 4 on fire. But really quick, I want to just ask you guys to make sure you go to the website and subscribe to All Queens Army. You can also do it from the link in my bio on Instagram if you follow us there at All Queens Army. So I just wanted to say that it's super duper important, y'all. Let me tell you why. Because in season 4, I'm going to be dropping some exclusive podcast episodes and some exclusive content, and only people who are subscribed are going to receive that content, guys. I'm not going to be publishing it publicly on the internet, okay? I'm not doing it. So if you want some of the exclusive content, you have to subscribe, okay? Some of the things that's going to be on the exclusive content is the sequel episode to Kings Get Hurt Too. If y'all remember, that was the season finale in season 1, okay, where we had a young man named Chris on the podcast as a guest, and he was telling us about the situation that happened with him and the baby mama who turned out not to be the baby mama and all of that stuff, right? We were discussing pain and hurt from a man's perspective. So that's one of the episodes that's going to be a part of our exclusive content. We also have some conversations with me and my hubby, and I'll be explaining what I have been up to over this past year since I have kind of spooked and disappeared yet again, went ghost on y'all yet again. But I have really been working on something and building a business. So I want to tell you guys about that as well. But you have to subscribe so you can get that content, all right? So make sure you go to allqueensarmy.com and subscribe. There's a little pop-up. You can subscribe there, or you can go to Instagram and click the link in my bio and you can subscribe there, okay? All right, so here's the other thing that I want to say real quick. I promise this is going to be so fast, and then we're going to jump into today's topic, okay? You guys probably heard me introduce myself as Coach Breezy, where I used to say it's your girl Breezy time, and today I introduce myself as Coach Breezy, and here is why. The amount of growth that All Queens Army had during last season is literally shocking. Like, my jaw is still on the ground after I have looked at the season 3 statistics and analytics. Y'all, jizzle. Let me first and foremost, most importantly, say to the queens who have been rocking with me since season 1, queens, from the bottom of my heart and from the depths of my soul, the very first thing I have to say is thank you. Thank you so much, queens. Thank you to my new listeners. Thank you to the people who have been rocking with All Queens Army since season 1, September 2018. Thank you for actually motivating me. It is because of you guys that I continue to go. It is because of you guys that I keep on building this platform. Thank you so much, guys. I know that you all say I motivate you all the time and listening to the podcast is super therapeutic, but let me tell you something. It's actually you guys who motivate me. It's you guys who keep me going. It's you guys who give me purpose, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because if you guys remember, when I very first started All Queens Army, I was super inconsistent, and as you all know, because I've told my story hundreds of times, and y'all probably tired of hearing it by now, like, girl, okay, we get it, girl. You was not consistent. Y'all know that consistency Consistency is the thing I struggled with the most. Also, I bounced around with so many business ideas and so many platforms. I just could not figure out what I wanted to do, who I was, what my purpose was. I couldn't figure it out. And I am here to tell you guys that I finally know that this is what I'm supposed to do. I know it. I feel it in my soul. You know how people always tell you, like, once you find your thing, once you find your person, once you find your purpose, you just know. Like, you don't know how you know, and you don't know how you know this is the right thing, but you just know. That's how I feel, y'all. Like, I just know that this is my thing, that this is my passion, that this is what God put me on earth to do, okay? Now, with that being said, I'm sure you guys noticed that in the beginning, when I introduced myself, I usually introduce myself as your girl, Breezy time. And you probably noticed that I changed that to your girl, Coach Breezy. I've been getting emails and DMs from you guys with questions about different things in your lives. People asking for help, people asking for advice, people telling me about a certain situation or circumstance and what they should do or how they should feel, or people just needing some motivation or some direction. And I always respond to the DMs and I always respond to the emails that you guys send when you ask me those questions. And I just so happened to be talking to my favorite cousin like 2 months ago and telling her about All Queens Army, and she was telling me how she really enjoyed the content and she had been on the website and she thought I was doing a good job. Yeah, girl, she was bigging me up, okay? She was bigging me up and I was sucking it all up. Y'all, I was like, ow! But anyway, I was telling her about the emails that I get and how I respond to the emails and how I respond to the DMs. And she was like, oh, girl, so you a life coach now? And I thought about it and I was like, am I? I'm a life coach? I'm coaching people? And the bottom line is, informally, that's exactly what I was doing. I was giving people advice specifically about what they were emailing me about. What was happening is people were finding the All Queens Army podcast or reading the blog. Because remember, guys, I started the blog at the beginning of season 3. And I guess some of the topics that I talked about really resonated with people and hit home. And they had more questions specific to their own situation. And I was more than happy and eager to answer every single one. So that's why I've rebranded myself. And now you hear me refer to myself as Coach Breezy because I am stepping into my purpose. Okay. It has taken me a very long time, about 9 different businesses that I've started, jobs that I was doing that I didn't want to do, and really just walking around life trying to figure out what exactly my purpose was. What did God put me here to do? What am I supposed to do? What is my calling? And I've been looking for it for so long. When I very first started All Queens Army, I had no idea that it was going to lead me right into exactly what I'm supposed to do, what I was meant to do, and what God put me here to do. And that is to coach the queens. Okay. So that is how I am moving forward. I'm moving forward in my purpose. I feel super confident about it. My name is Coach Breezy, and I am the host of the All Queens Army podcast and the founder of the All Queens Army platform, with confidence, with love, and with divine direction, honey. Now, with that being said, let's just get into it, right? Finally, let's get into it. So, how to deal with a narcissist. The first thing I want to talk about in regards to narcissism is that it's such a buzzword right now. Like, everybody's talking about narcissism. So many people are labeling people as narcissists. And one of the things I noticed about our society is once we learn a new word, child, we literally beat it to death, honey. Oh my gosh. I remember when people started using the word toxic. Everything was toxic. Everybody was toxic. Every situation was toxic. Now we have a couple new buzzwords, okay? We have a couple new buzz characteristics, and narcissism is one of them. Now, let's be clear. I am not saying by any far stretch of the imagination that narcissism is not real and that there aren't tons of narcissists running around on this earth wrecking havoc, okay? I know it happens. That's what I want to share with you guys today. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about how to identify a narcissist, because what I don't want you guys to do is go out there and start labeling people as narcissists when really it could just be that they have insecurities or other things that are going on and they're not quite narcissistic. Because one of the things that I really dislike is when people label people as something negative and they don't even really understand it, because that really takes a toll on people's mental health and it really takes a toll on people's emotional well-being when you start labeling people with psychological jargon that has a negative connotation, okay? I really dislike the fact that our society is so comfortable with doing that and the fact that people so eagerly do that, because it really does take a toll on people's emotional well-being and it takes a toll on their mental health, okay? So the first thing I want to do is identify some signs and some characteristics of a narcissist to help you identify true narcissistic behavior and not just people who have some narcissistic qualities or some narcissistic personality traits. traits, okay? So one of the big things that really stand out about a narcissistic personality, narcissists have a self-image that actually is not who they are. And that's what differentiates someone from being narcissist and someone from being just cocky or just arrogant or just full of themselves, okay? People who are cocky and arrogant and full of themselves, who truly can back up the way that they portray their personalities. Let's think about like a basketball player or a football player, and they're super duper cocky and they have larger than life personalities, and they talk about how great they are and they talk about how fantastic they are, and they don't have a lot of humility in regards to like their talent or what they do well or something like that. People like that who are actually good, who literally are speaking the truth about how great they are because they are what they say they are not narcissists. They could be arrogant, they could be cocky, they could be full of themselves, they can be those things, but that's not necessarily narcissistic. Narcissistic is someone who has that personality trait where they view themselves and they idealize themselves as something that they're not, right? So they have this larger than life belief of who they are. Like they think that they are like king status or queen status, but really the way that they live their lives and the way that they operate and who they actually are is more like peasantry, okay? Now, I don't mean that in any way to put anybody down. I'm just trying to explain the differences in what's happening in their mind and who they visualize themselves as opposed to who they really are, okay? One of the things that I noticed about people, and this isn't just narcissists, this is everyone, is that people have a perception of who they are. In your mind, you have a perception of who you are. You have a perception of the type of person you are. You have a perception about your qualities, about your characteristics, about the things that you do well, about the things you don't do well. Like everybody has this view of themselves of who it is that they think they're portraying. And a lot of times who you think you're portraying in your view, in your perception, in your thought, or your idea of yourself is not always what other people are experiencing when they're dealing with you or talking to you or engaging with you in any way, okay? So that's kind of a normal thing, that people have a different perception of who they are than what other people are actually experiencing, right? But what makes a narcissist narcissistic is the fact that the image that they have of themselves is so big and out of this world and over the top, but their lifestyle and who they are and their qualities, their characteristics, their work ethic, the type of personality they have is not in alignment with what they believe about themselves, okay? So it's literally like living in this fantasy world for them, that they're this big, grandiose, super important, but really in reality, it's the total opposite, okay? And the reason why narcissists behave that way and why they kind of brag big in that way is because deep down inside, they are super duper insecure. Now, again, everybody has insecurities and everybody operates with insecurities. And I can tell you, queens, most people who are insecure, me included, you included, some of our insecurities we're not even aware of. And most of our insecurities, we attempt to cover them up with some sort or form of bravado or self-deprecation. And that's just a natural human response to insecurities, all right? Now, people who are super evolved in certain areas of their lives or who are more self-aware know that they have certain insecurities and they can identify with them, and they actually are in position then to work on those insecurities and overcome them. But the difference between, again, a person who just has regular insecurities who are kind of hiding them and a person who is actually narcissistic is the person who is narcissistic has an over-the-top view or perception of themselves that is just 100% not true. Okay, so some of the patterns of behavior that you will see in a narcissistic person will be things like they're super self-centered. Everything is about them. Every situation is about them. They turn everything around to talk about them. They insert themselves in every conversation, every issue, every experience that someone else is having. Another thing is that they lack empathy. If they hurt your feelings or do something wrong or do something that someone didn't like, you won't get an apology. You won't get any change behavior. You'll probably get a super defensive stance if you stand up to them or if you even tell them that you feel a way about something that they did, okay? Again, they can be super cocky. They can be super demanding. And here's a really big sign. A big sign of a narcissist is they have an excessive need for admiration. Baby, narcissists want you to admire them, tell them how wonderful they are, thank them all the time, praise them all the time, kiss their ass, suck their... Woo, child, I was in it, okay? Let me back up, child. Woo! Now, y'all know what I mean, right? They literally love ass kissers. So a lot of times you can spot a narcissist if you see them seeking out a tribe of people who just love them so much, child, who just think the world of them, who kiss their ass and lift them up to the heavens, child. And that comes from their insecurity, okay? Narcissists have a strong need for outside validation. So they intentionally try to create a circle around them of people who will kiss their ass, who will praise them, honey, who will get on their knees and fan them, child, who will feed them grapes, who tell them what they want to hear, who big them up and tell them how wonderful they are, who never oppose anything they say, who never call them out on their bullshit. That's the kind of people that narcissists seek. Now, keep that in mind. Like, keep that little thing I just said in your pocket, because I'm going to revisit that in a second, okay? All right, here's a sign of a narcissist that I really want to drive home for you guys, and I truly, truly want to dig into and make sure you understand, okay? This sign is that narcissists can become extremely manipulative, and you have to be extremely careful with people who are manipulative, okay? Because manipulative people often come off very charismatic, very caring, very loving in the beginning, because they're trying to get you on their team. Remember, they're trying to recruit you as one of the people who are going to praise them and tell you how wonderful they are and kiss their ass and never call them out. So keep that in mind. They can become very manipulative because they are dying to seek out the validation that they so desperately need. And they'll stop at nothing to get that validation from you. Okay, so they will begin to manipulate you. Again, that's another one. So keep that in your pocket, what I just said about the manipulation thing, and keep in your pocket the whole excessive need for admiration, because I'm going to come back and revisit that, okay? Now, another thing that you'll notice about narcissists is that they are resistant to changing their behavior, and they wind up turning the blame on others, okay? So if you approach a narcissist with an issue, with a problem, something you don't like, something you want them to do differently, something that kind of bumps up against your personal boundary, I'm telling you, you're going to meet a shitload of resistance. They're going to deny it. They're going to turn it around on you. They are usually really good fast talkers. They're usually really good with shutting other people down, okay? And they use tactics like manipulation and intimidation to do so. So you have to be very, very careful of that. Another sign of a narcissist is that they are extremely sensitive, defensive, and take everything personal, honey. So if you criticize a narcissist, baby, they will react like you didn't just kidnap their mama, honey. Oh my Lord. They are super sensitive and very dramatic. Imagine a personality of someone who comes off super confident, super cocky, over the top, like they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're the best at everything they do. They have experienced everything in the world. They have been everywhere. They know everyone. They're very important. They don't talk to peasants. They only deal with kings and queens, honey. They got money. You have this person with this huge, big, grandiose personality. And with all of that big bravado, you can't say a damn thing to that person about something that they did wrong. They can't own up to anything. They will not take any accountability. Imagine those two completely different personality traits, totally on the opposite ends of a spectrum, being in one person. And then you will start to understand the danger in dealing with someone who is narcissistic. And a big problem in our society with narcissistic people is that the people in their lives tend to give them what they want. And remember, they go out and they seek people like that. So a lot of times they seek people who are going to give them what they want. They seek people who are going to say what they want them to say or behave the way they want them to behave, okay? And a lot of people, though, when they're dealing with narcissists, and this may even be you guys too, so I'm talking to you guys too. If you're dealing with a narcissist and you just let them have their way and you just tell them what they want and you just sweep things under the rug, a lot of times you're doing that to avoid aggressive behavior or to avoid their rage or to avoid hurtful or abusive behavior or things like that, okay? So if you notice that you're having to dumb yourself down and simmer yourself down and quiet your own voice to keep the peace, you may be dealing with the narcissist, okay? So what we're going to do now is to discuss how to protect yourself from narcissistic people, okay? Now, let's be clear. Some of us may have some narcissistic people in our lives that we can't just simply cut off. I notice that that's another thing in our society is that everybody's answer to dealing with everything is, oh, cut them off, let them go, get them out of your lives, okay? Now, I am a huge supporter of cutting people off and shutting certain people out in relationships. I am a huge supporter. Don't get it messed up. However, I don't agree with it 100% of the time, okay? It depends on what the situation is. It depends on who the person is. It depends on the person's ability to work with you, to communicate with you, and to talk to you, okay? So I don't always agree with going to the extreme of cutting people off when someone disturbs your peace or when someone doesn't know how to love you or when someone is creating a little bit of havoc in your lives, okay? Because sometimes you can can work through those things. Sometimes the people who bring those types of issues into your life are people who you can work with, because listen, we're all flawed. Everyone has flaws. No one is perfect. So I always like to try to figure out if the person has the importance in my life that I want to work through some of the problems, or even identifying if they're actually capable of working through some of the problems. So yes, you can just cut people off as a resolution to dealing with narcissists. However, if the person in your life who is a narcissist is someone that you don't want to cut off, let's just say it's a person like your kid. You wind up seeing that your child is a little narcissistic. Realistically, are you going to just cut your kid off? You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that some people shouldn't, or some people won't get to that point where they may need to. Listen, there is no one answer for every situation. It all depends on each individual isolated incident, okay? That's why I offer coaching services, guys, because I can't possibly speak to every person's individual issue, because every issue is going to be a little bit different depending on the person and their ability to talk, communicate, and work through issues, okay? So what I'm saying is, if you have a person in your life who is narcissistic, who you don't want to just cut off, or you don't want to just simply give up on, because they could be a loved one. It could be a grandmother. It could be your kid. It could be your husband. It could be your boyfriend. It could be your mom. It could be your aunt, your uncle. I mean, really, like, this is real stuff. There are a lot of people out here who have narcissistic characteristics, okay? It doesn't just reside with potential romantic relationships. We're talking about dealing with people, period. Everyone in your life who has some narcissistic personality traits, okay? So after that long dissertation, child, where I didn't just completely went off topic, let's get back to what I was originally saying, which is how to protect yourself from a narcissist. So the first thing that I want to address in regards to protecting yourself from a narcissist is, it would be beneficial, queens, if you started learning how to identify a narcissist when you see one. You have to take off the rose-colored glasses and learn to see things for what they are, and learn to see people for who they are, and accept things as they are. We can't keep living in some sort of a fantasy world where we want to believe good things about situations that aren't good situations. We have to stop doing that, because that's a self-inflicted problem. So I want to challenge you, queens, to start being able to identify bad behaviors and red flags in the beginning. And here's a couple ways that you can do that, specifically in regards to a narcissist. The first thing is, like I said, they're super duper duper charming. So if you meet someone and they're just overly charming, they're oozing with charm, they seem to be like inauthentic with it, like they're turning it on, like they're purposely trying to do it. Listen, queens, you have to learn how to trust your intuition. You can feel when some shit ain't right. You can feel when somebody is not being authentic. You can feel it. The problem is that we try to turn off that voice of ours that tells us beware, because we want to see the good in the situation. You have to stop doing that, queens, and you have to learn how to trust your intuition. That gut feeling ain't never wrong. Ain't never, ever wrong. Women were blessed with intuition. It's one of the things that God gave us. It's one of the gifts that God gave us. Start using that gift, queens, so that you can see through the BS. Yes, there are going to be some very charming people. Some people are naturally very charismatic. But if someone is naturally charming, naturally charismatic, you will feel that it's real. If they're bullshitting you, you'll feel that too. So start paying attention to things like that. Also, keep in mind that narcissists are seeking admirers. So don't fall in line. Don't become another yes girl. Don't become an admirer. Don't become an ass kisser. Don't even do that. Like, if you tend to do that in your personal life generally, like you're kind of a people pleaser, that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother issue that I've actually, I think, addressed in one of the blogs. People pleasing is not a good personality trait. So if you are a people pleaser, you will be attractive to narcissists, and you will attract narcissists, period. So you need to work on that if that's you. Okay, here's another thing. You want to observe how they behave and how they treat people. Like, look at their relationships. Look at the relationship that they have with their mom. Look at the relationships that they have with their friends. Look at their relationships that they have with their coworkers. Listen and observe. How do they talk? How do they relate to people? How do they treat people? It'll tell you a lot about a person. And that's not just about identifying a narcissist. That's about identifying a bad personality trait, period. Okay? So here's the next thing that I want to say about protecting yourself from narcissists, okay? Queens, the bottom line is you have to work on yourself. If you have a narcissist in your life, like I said, maybe one of the relationships that you don't want to just cut off, you have to work on yourself. The reason is because you cannot control other people. I literally say this in every blog, in every YouTube video, in every podcast episode. You cannot control other people. All Queen's Army was built on self-accountability and taking responsibility for your own life. You cannot control the things that happen outside of you. You cannot control the people outside of you. You cannot control what they do. You cannot control who they are. You cannot control how they act. So focusing so much on them and who they are and what they do is a waste of your time. The bottom line is you want to guard and armor yourself. Yes, all queens army, okay? We are arming ourselves. We are guarding ourselves from the bullshit that life would otherwise throw your way. Because if you learn how to arm and guard yourself from the bullshit that life will throw at you, life will eventually stop throwing it at you. So you have to work on yourself so that you are not susceptible to the bad behavior from narcissists or any other type of personality out there. So here's some of the things that you can do to work on yourself. You have to set boundaries. I've talked about boundaries a billion gazillion times, so I'm not going to go into it. But if you want to learn more about boundaries, there are other podcast episodes. There are tons of blog articles on the website that talk about boundaries. You have to set boundaries. And more importantly than just setting them, you have to uphold your boundary. You have to stand behind them and enforce them, okay? Another thing is that you have to know yourself and know your worth. You really have to understand who you are, rebuild that self-esteem, rebuild that confidence, and take back your bad bitch power, okay? You have to do that. You have to walk this earth like you the baddest motherfucker walking. I've said that before. You have to have that energy, because having that energy and having that confidence and knowing who the you are will be a deterrent to narcissists and any other type of personality trait who is willing to manipulate you and take advantage of you, okay? So you have to know yourself and know your worth. Also, you want to kill your need for approval. See, what happens a lot of times when you're dealing with narcissistic people, again, they're seeking admirers. They want you to admire them, to praise them, to feed them grapes, to kiss their ass, okay? If you are the type of person who's always seeking approval, if you are a people pleaser, let me tell you something. You are the perfect candidate for a narcissist to recruit into their little fan club. You are the perfect candidate because you're seeking outside approval, and they're going to give it to you as long as you're kissing their ass. So you have to work on that. You have to kill your need for outside approval and kill your need for validation outside of yourself. Again, if you work on your self-worth, you won't need outside approval, okay? Another thing is learning how to rise above and not being pulled and sucked into arguments and low energy behaviors. I talk about that all the time as well. Learning how to rise above and not letting people bait you into senseless, stupid arguments. Sometimes you just have to fly above. Like you have to be an eagle. Sometimes chickens be clucking and be saying all kinds of stuff. And you have to learn how to rise above that. You have to learn how to not engage in certain arguments and certain conversations because you're bigger than that and you're better than that. And how dare you step off your throne to address some bullshit happening in the peasantry. I'm just saying, all right? Last but not least, if you cannot deal with a person who has narcissistic personality traits, you have to cut them off for your own peace of mind. Again, remember, I always say, I am not a supporter of just cutting people off at the first sign of trouble, at the first problem. I'm not that. I feel like you try to work with people, you try to talk to them, you make an effort, and you assess the person's ability to work with you. You have to personally assess, do you feel like this person can meet you halfway? Do you feel like this person can at least give you what you need to work through the problem? If they can't, if they won't, and their behavior is causing you emotional turmoil, stress, all of that shit, get rid of them. That simple, okay? The last thing and the most important thing is, queens, we have to learn what healthy relationships look and feel like. Now, a lot of us were born into life in broken situations, broken marriages, broken relationships, broken families. And a lot of us actually did not have in our own homes, in front of our own eyes, we did not have examples of healthy relationships. So some of us are coming from a broken place, and that's why we keep attracting brokenness, because it's what we are accustomed to, and it's what we have now been taught is normal. So we have to unlearn that bull crap and learn what a healthy relationship looks like and what a healthy relationship feels like, okay? Bottom line is, dealing with a narcissist can become emotionally abusive. If you continue to deal with a narcissist and you do not learn how to protect yourself, and you do not put up boundaries, and you do not work on your self-worth or your needs for approval or your self-confidence and all of the things that I just talked about, if that is you, then you may find yourself in an abusive relationship. Now, let's be clear. I am not just talking about abusive relationships in regards to romantic relationships. I am talking about abusive relationships, period. Because a mother-son relationship can be abusive. A daughter-mother relationship can be abusive. A father-son relationship can be abusive. A parent-child in general relationship can be abusive. You can be abused by siblings, cousins, aunties, uncles, parents, bosses, jobs, friends, Any relationship, anything that ends in ship has the potential to be emotionally abusive. And you queens have got to stop ignoring signs of emotional abuse. It is silent because there are no bruises. There are no hospital visits. There are no cuts. There's no physical or tangible thing to see that proves that you are being abused. But emotional abuse is real, and it starts with manipulation. And that's why I said I wanted to come back to that. It starts with manipulation. It starts with shutting you down. It starts with intimidation. And then it turns into you quieting yourself and you trying to avoid conflict and you tiptoeing around someone. And then you constantly having to feed them validation and affirmations and positivity, all while silencing yourself, all while taking in hurtful shit every single day. Queens, it is the most unhealthy thing ever because it is a slow, silent debilitator of your worth. It'll have you not knowing who the hell you are. It'll have you distancing yourself from the people who love you. It'll have you hiding your emotional trauma. Very unhealthy. Okay, very unhealthy. So I just wanted to drop that on you queens. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something from it. I so want to thank you queens. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. I wish I could hug every single one of you listeners and every single one of you supporters. So that's today's episode. I hope you queens found that very helpful. I love you queens so much. Like I said, from the bottom pits of my heart, thank you guys so much. All I ask you to do is please subscribe to the All Queens Army podcast. Please share the All Queens Army podcast with anyone who you think it can help. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon's Audible app. Thank you so much. I love you queens so much. I am out. I will talk to you guys next week. I love you. See you later. Bye.